And for the sixth time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live, the weekly stream of consciousness conversation recording session where I sit down with you, we sit back, we talk about some of the stuff that happened in the last week in terms of entertainment and other things in general overall. And we've got a couple things to talk about this week, so we should have a decent-sized show this week. Last week we had a number of stories to cover, and I don't know how long it's going to take to cover all of these ones, but I've got a full plate here to delve into this week of some stories that happened in the last week, and some interesting rumors, some interesting things about potential layoffs, a trailer that I had to talk about in full, even though I did a short on this channel here, but I just have to talk about it in full, and some other stories we'll get to as we move along here. As I always have to tell you, these are more long-form conversation recording sessions. They're going to have some foul language to them, so if you're offended by that, if you don't want to deal with that, you probably would want to, it'd probably be best for you to step away right now. But if you're up to the challenge, then sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and begin the conversation. And as per usual, as we do here at the start of every show, we start off with the top 5, the weekend box office for the week. And not very interesting, except for the number 1 movie, which is the only new release of the weekend. But it's not going to be something that's going to be too exciting overall here. A lot of the movies that we're going to delve into in this are stuff that we talked about in last week's episode. Because all 4 films, that besides the number 1 movie, are films that came out last week. So let's just go ahead and just get through these pretty quickly. So we'll start off at number 5 here, which is The Blind, which actually was at number 6 after the weekend actual numbers came out. I know I said last week that the estimates were had it at number 5, but that was not the case. It was actually 6, and Haunting in Venice stayed in the top 5 last week. But now it's switched around again. And needless to say, I think The Blind's going to be in there when the actual numbers come in, because it's much bigger. It's about $1 million more than what Haunting in Venice has this weekend. The Blind, which is of course the Phil Robertson documentary or something like that, I don't know for certain, but it improved over last week despite losing 400 theaters. $3.9 million, close to about $4 million. $10.4 million after 2 weeks. I don't know what the budget for this is, or honestly, because if you try to look for it on Wikipedia, you can't find anything about it. And I'm guessing maybe it's some kind of... oh, there actually is something on here now. I guess somebody did put a page up for it. Doesn't say what the budget is on it. The reviews for it are very mixed, but it's clear that this is intended for the people who like Duck Dynasty and the Duck Commander people. And like I said, I don't know too much about it, honestly, so I can't really say anything about it per se. But needless to say, there are people there that are going to see it. It improved over last week, $10.5 million after 2 weeks. Couldn't have cost that much, I would think, but you never know at this point. But so that's sticking around. Probably going to have the same kind of crowd that The Sound of Freedom had, even though it's not going to make as much money as that film did. So let's get to number 4, and this is where it gets pretty interesting here. Number 4 is The Creator, which dropped near 57% from the previous week. $6.1 million, $24.9 million. If you include worldwide grosses, it's up to $61 million. The budget on this was $80 million, which is not that much, but once again, an original film, not based off of an intellectual property or from a franchise, just can't find the crowd that it needs to. Even though this got a lot of good reviews, it got a lot of positive reviews, nobody wants to go see it. And the film actually, it's amazing when you think about it, because the number 3 film, which we'll get to, is a horror film. Horror films are very front-loaded early on, and then they drop off big time in the second week. The number 3 film actually had a better hold than the number 4 film did, which is not a horror film, but it's a sci-fi film. And I don't know. I still have to see the film, so I have to see if it's any good or not. I'm hearing a lot of good things about it so. I mean, I don't know. It could be one of those things where, like, maybe they just didn't have a big enough star to put in there. I mean, John David Washington's a known name. I mean, he's the son of Denzel Washington, for God's sakes, but he's not that big of a draw yet. Like he hasn't done that big blockbuster thing or that big movie to make him a household name with people, and it's a shame, because he's one of our great actors right now, along with his father, who I still consider the great actor, one of the greatest actor working right now. But yeah, The Creator, it'll probably do okay with worldwide business, but you gotta figure that Disney and Fox were clearly looking for more from that. But So let's go ahead and talk about that number 3 film that has a better hold. Saw X, which is, it did drop off, but 55.5% drop off compared to the creator's 57% drop off is pretty significant. $8.1 million, $32 million. The budget on that movie could not have been that high. I think it was actually somewhere around less than $10 million, I think. Around there, $13 million. So, yeah, still holding on to the strong reviews that it has, and it probably means we're going to see another Saw movie down the road. So, not much more to say about that one. $8.2 million, $32.5 million after 2 weeks. On to the number 2 film, which is Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie, which was number 1 last weekend. $11.8 million, $38.8 million. That one I don't think also doesn't have that big of a budget either. Let me just double check just to show. I'd be surprised if it did. $30 million, so it's already made its money back and then some. It's the only family film coming out until Trolls World Tour comes out, or Trolls Band Together comes out in mid-November, so it's got some time to make a good chunk of money there. So that's number 2. So let's go ahead and move on to the number 1 movie of the week, which is, not surprisingly, The Exorcist Believer. The Exorcist Believer brought in $27.2 million, which is not bad at all for a $30 million budgeted film. However, it's considered a disappointment considering that Universal spent $400 million acquiring the rights to bring in The Exorcist and do these new films from Morgan Creek. So it's a tough one to take in because, yeah, it's going to make its money back. It hasn't done well with critics, though, and that $400 million price tag with 2 more movies down the road could mean trouble for it coming in the way, but they're still making the sequels, even though this first movie, I don't know why anybody would want to come back after this first film, because I just did the review for this over on the main channel, and needless to say, this movie is not that good. It's really, really bad. After starting off strong in the first 30 minutes, it just fell off big time. Big time. It's a movie that is really, like, after the first 30 minutes, it's just all downhill from there. Worldwide gross up to $45 million, so it'll probably make its money back. It's going to make its money back regardless in terms of the budget they spent on the first film, but the question is going to be whether or not people will want to come back for the next 2 films. We already know the second film's coming out in April of 25, so we're going to wait and see what happens there, but so yeah, that's The Exorcist Believer. Not much more to say about that one. Number 1 movie at the box office. The only other new release in quotation marks, I should say, is Hocus Pocus, which was re-released in theaters for its 30th anniversary, and did surprisingly well. $1.5 million for a movie for a re-release that didn't have a whole lot of marketing to it. $1.5 million isn't bad for that film. It brings the total gross to the film, I believe, up to the total grosses are up to $45 million. The first time it was released, it made $39 million, and there's been a couple of re-releases here and there. But $45 million for that. I think Nightmare Before Christmas is coming out pretty soon in a re-release, and that's one I definitely go and see in my opinion. But that's really gonna do it for the newer releases this week. Next week, it's all gonna be about the most obnoxious person in the world right now, Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour, which goes wide. It's projected to make $100 million just on those ticket sales alone. So it's going to reignite the box office, and it's going to lead to me eventually going on my heavily hyped rant against Taylor Swift, which is coming next week. So stay tuned for that, because you're gonna love that if you hate Taylor Swift, or you're gonna hate me for the rest of your life if you're a Swiftie, as they call it. But shut up, just shut up, please. I'm going off here, but I'm losing track here. So let's go ahead and get into some story time, because we have some stories to talk about. Let's talk about some stories from the past week. So one of the big news stories in Hollywood this week was the news that Chris Rock and Steven Spielberg are collaborating on a movie about the life of Martin Luther King Jr. Rock is in final talks with Universal and Steven Spielberg to direct and produce the project. I'm reading this off of Variety, and Spielberg is attached as the executive producer, and Universal is backing the biographical drama after optioning the biography King of Life, written by Jonathan Eeg. An EX book has been called a definitive biography of the late civil rights icon. It uses new FBI information and hundreds of interviews to paint a portrayal of King as a courageous but emotionally troubled individual who demanded peaceful protest while grappling with his own frailties and a government that hunted him. Since it's in the early development process, casting has not been announced. Of course, we're still on an actor strike as I'm recording this, so that's really not that much of a surprise there. Chris Rock has previously directed 2014's Top 5, 2003's Head of State, and 2007's I Think I Love My Wife. He'll be seen in director George C. Wolfe's Rustin, starring Coleman Domingo as a civil rights activist. And earlier this year, he debuted his Netflix live stand-up special, Chris Rock's Selective Outrage, which was widely viewed because it was one of the first times he spoke publicly about getting slapped on stage at the Oscars by Will Smith. And I'm not gonna delve into that part right there, but short answer to that part right there. I'm still of the argument that both Chris Rock and Will Smith were in the wrong. Will Smith obviously shouldn't have slapped him. Chris Rock shouldn't have made that stupid joke. But the important thing we're talking about here is that him directing a movie about the life of Martin Luther King Jr., which we've already had a movie about that, a really good film that came out in the last decade, Selma, directed by Ava DuVernay, and that was one of my favorite movies from 2014. I think it was actually... I can't remember if it was actually my favorite film that year or not. I think it was either that or Boyhood, but it was definitely high up there. But that was a really great film. David Oyelowo played Martin Luther King Jr. very well in that movie. So I'm very curious to see how this works out because, you know, Chris Rock, of course, he's been trying to obviously break out more as not just a comedian but also as a dramatic actor. We've seen him do many attempts at these dramatic roles in other films. He tried to do what Jordan Peele did by stepping into the horror genre, which spiraled from the Book of Saw, which was not bad, but definitely not something that should have been a whole lot better than it actually was. But he's been doing some other stuff like Dolomite Is My Name with Eddie Murphy. He's been on Fargo on the FX show, which his season was really good. And the movies he directed have been pretty solid. Top 5 I really enjoyed. I think that was one of my favorite films of the year as well, 2014. I Think I Love My Wife. Head of State, an okay movie. Nothing too spectacular about that one, but perfectly fine for what it is. Definitely could have been a whole lot better, so I'm more than cautiously optimistic to see what he can do with this type of a film. The only thing that I'm kind of iffy about is how do you top what Selma kind of did? Because I think Selma did a pretty good job of handling Martin Luther King Jr. as a whole. They got a great actor to play him. They did delve into some elements of the story where he wasn't just seen as the straightforward hero. He could be kind of a there were times when he could be kind of a dick to people, or kind of screw people over in his life, like his wife. But it never gets to the point where you end up hating him. He just seems like a normal person in that situation. So I'm curious to see what they'll do with this. Like, the only way I could see them kind of doing this is kind of, you take the Malcolm X route. You make this a big epic film, which is funny because when I first heard the news and I saw that Chris Rock is there, I kept thinking back to the Boondocks joke on when they did the Martin Luther King Jr. episode, which is one of my favorite episodes of television, by the way. They had the bit where they talk about how Oliver Stone was attached to direct the Martin Luther King Jr. movie, and Spike Lee was pissed. Like, it's a great episode. If you haven't seen that episode of the Boondocks, definitely check that out. But I was going to be very curious to see how this one turns out. I'm really interested to see what they do. I haven't read this new biography. I don't even think it's out yet because, you know, with these options, they usually studios usually get the rights to make these before the book is even published. So I don't even know if this book is even out yet. But it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. I think you have to go the Malcolm X kind of route, make it a big sweeping epic, make it like a big film overall, over 3 hours long, do something like an Oppenheimer or something like that. Because if you do it right, people will go and see the film. And Oppenheimer did it right too. So I'd be very curious to see how this one plays out. Chris Rock and Steven Spielberg working together could easily be a ton of fun to see. So I'm definitely very curious to see how that one plays out. So that was one of the big overall stories in Hollywood this week. And let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So earlier in the year, Dreamworks Animation had their big layoffs. And you could pretty much tell that something was up at DreamWorks this year when they didn't even bother to promote their big summer movie, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, which there was not hardly any promotions for that film when you compare it to some of the films that Universal did spend the promotion money on, you know, like Puss in Boots and Super Mario Brothers movie, and even now with Migration. They're doing it with Trolls Band Together, but I don't know. I don't know why they didn't bother to do anything for Ruby Gillman. Maybe because it wasn't a franchise or a household name or something like that. But there were layoffs in the spring. 33 people lost their jobs. And now, this week, there was a story that broke on... this comes from Cartoon Brew, and they're talking about how DreamWorks is shifting away from in-house production in Los Angeles, and now Sony Imageworks is now a production partner for the company. And the article goes, as part of cost-cutting measures, DreamWorks Animation is shifting away from producing films fully in-house at its Glendale, California studio, and will rely more heavily on third-party studios. The studio's chief operating officer, Randy Lake, laid out the studio's plans in a series of meetings last month, and the article goes on to say, for good, and trying to see where I can start at. Let's see. Okay, here it comes here. Enter Sony Pictures Imageworks. One of these 3 films announced is an unannounced sequel, which will be made using the studio's new mixed production model in collaboration with Sony Pictures Imageworks. So they're making a sequel off of one of their movies. The main guess is that it's going to be The Bad Guy, since it was the most recent film that was a big success last year. It was one of the year's best films from a lot of people. So that's probably the one that's going to be. DreamWorks' 2 other films in 2025, the previously announced Dogman and an unannounced film, will be animated entirely at partner studio, which are not Imageworks. Similar to how the studio utilized Jellyfish Pictures for Spirit Untamed and Mikros Animation for Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. The new Mixed Pro model is being tested with Imageworks, which has produced studios in Vancouver and Montreal. Imageworks is the main animation studios for Sony Pictures Animation, who, of course, handled the Spider-Verse and the Hotel Transylvania franchise, but it also serves as a vendor studio for other companies, like Netflix had them work on the Sea Beast and Over the Moon, and Warner Brothers also worked with them on Storks and Smallfoot. According to comments that DreamWorks EVP of Film Production Erica Burton made to workers last month, DreamWorks will handle all creative front end on the unannounced sequel, story, art, editorial, previs, and as well as approximately 50% of the asset build and 1 hour of production. Imageworks will handle the other 50% of the set buildings and 20 minutes of shot production. While this is the current thinking of management at DreamWorks, Burton says that the exact percentages were still being worked on and are subject to change. Now, how does this affect the DreamWorks in-house staff? They said that Lake said that the indication is that the overall studio wanted to reduce production costs by 20%. Workers at DreamWorks are concerned that the new partnership with Imageworks affects the new reality of the studio, and that DreamWorks will no longer fully produce any of its animated films in-house. Lake has already signaled that headcount will be reduced at the studio. Some of this will happen through natural attrition, which means that the studio won't renew some of its contract workers. So it comes on to, is it a cause for concern? And they say here that Lake's history as an executive has raised questions about DreamWorks about his true intentions. He's a former securities attorney and strategic consultant at Booz Allen, which was part of the senior management at Sony Pictures Imageworks. And he's a mixed production. He said the article says a mixed production model for DreamWorks still keeps some production work in Los Angeles, which is more than can be said for other animation studios. Sony Pictures, Skydance, Illumination produce most of the assets and animation for their films at studios that they own outside of the United States, while Warner's and Paramount outsource productions to third-party studios in other countries. Lake has said that DreamWorks doesn't want to own any vendor studios, as Sony, Skydance, and Illumination does, but working with third-party vendors affords the company greater flexibility. So basically, it's kind of a continuation of what was going on early in the year. You can tell that DreamWorks is not the same studio that it was when Jeffrey Katzenberg, Steven Spielberg, and David Geffen put it together over 25 years ago. I mean, we don't have that same creative team that made films like Ants, The Prince of Egypt, Shrek, and many of them here. And it's obvious that DreamWorks is trying to keep itself going, but knows that it needs help from other sources to continue to put out some works. And they just said that in there that there's going to be at least 3 movies coming within the next couple of years, and we also have a movie coming out next year with Kung Fu Panda 4, and we haven't heard anything too much about that yet, so I don't know if that's going to get pushed back, or are they just waiting for when Trolls Band Together comes out to start putting the trailer out. But as far as we know, that's coming out in March of 2024. They're also working with Netflix on a film, Orion in the Dark. So the work at DreamWorks is not going to stop, but it's gonna be weird to see how this plays out, because I thought last year DreamWorks was kind of starting their way back to relevancy. There was a stretch between in the time of the pandemic, where they were just putting out these movies that weren't as good as some of the stuff they were putting out afterwards. There's like little stretches here and there. Like sometimes that like before the pandemic, we had 3 really good films with Captain Underpants, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, and Abominable, and then they followed that up with Trolls World Tour, Crude's a New Age, which were decent films, Spirit Untamed, which was not that good, and The Boss Baby Family Business, which was also not a good film. And then they came back last year with The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and then Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. They're on a good stretch right now. The problem is that, especially with Ruby Gillman, nobody went to go see the film because they didn't promote the film. I think that's got to be the first concern for DreamWorks, is getting Universal to say, hey, you brought us into this studio, so you might as well promote the stuff that we're giving you. They hardly promoted that movie, and it bombed big time because nobody went to go see it. And because you didn't promote it, you lost $80 million, and you have your biggest failure as a studio since Sinbad: Legend of the Seven Seas. In fact, this thing did even worse than Sinbad: Legend of the Seven Seas did, and that bombed big time when that came out. So, like, that's a failure on so many levels to not even try to bring this it's like you spend so much money bringing DreamWorks Animation into your fold so you can have this portfolio of different animated studios under your regime, and you hardly did anything with their last film. Like, I just don't get why. Do you really have a problem with them not putting out franchise? I don't get it. Like, I don't get why they're doing it. They're doing it now with Trolls Band Together and Kung Fu Panda 4. My only guess is because those are established properties. Those are franchises. And, heaven forbid, it's hard to launch a franchise in the summer of 2023. I mean, look what happened with Disney and Pixar with Elemental. That bombed on opening weekend. It's not like it didn't do anything after that. And, oh wait, yeah, it did. It went on to become one of the big animated hits of the year. One of the big hits overall of the year. So, yeah, this is all on you, DreamWorks. Like, I hate to say it, I don't want to see people lose their jobs or lose the way they actually do their business, but you really need you should have thought about. It's like Universal should have thought to use you more before you had to do these layoffs. I'm not even blaming DreamWorks for that, but it's clear that something has to change over at DreamWorks in order to get them back to a form of relevancy, and this just feels like. I mean, it feels like this has to be done to save the studio at this point until you can make a profit again, make a big profit again to actually work on something. And, I don't know. I really don't know where it could go from there. I mean, I'm really curious to see where this goes from here with them. I don't want to see them go away. I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, but Universal really needs to step in and give these characters more to do. They actually have to promote these movies no matter if it is an original property or not. You got to put some money into this, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So that's one of the stories from this week, the DreamWorks Animation layoffs. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So late last night, I was actually looking up some stuff online, and I came across this story from earlier in the week, and I looked at it, and I thought to myself, at first when I heard about this, I thought, this is real, isn't it? I didn't think it was real at first. I thought maybe that this was something how there's news sites and Twitter posts where they try to make these fake news stories. I thought this was just a joke, but, the article starts off with the title, Disney has removed the singer-actress from Oscar consideration for Best Original Song, which will require her to perform on... That's actually not the title, it's the subtitle. Let me try that again. Halle Bailey, who of course was Ariel in The Little Mermaid, removed from Oscar consideration for Little Mermaid amid pregnancy rumors. Now let me get to the subtitle here. Disney has removed the singer-actress from Oscar consideration for Best Original Song, which would require her to perform the song on stage during the ceremony should it get nominated. So this comes from Ace Showbiz. The story goes, Halle Bailey's alleged pregnancy is apparently starting to have ramifications to her career. The singer-actress has been removed from Oscar consideration for The Little Mermaid amidst persistent rumors that she is currently expecting a child with her rapper beau, DDG. Now, I don't know who DDG is, so... You're going to learn about this just as much as I'm going to learn about this. So DDG is a rapper known professionally as Pontiac-made DDG, or simply DDG, an American rapper, singer-songwriter, actor, and YouTuber. He started making videos in 2014, expanded his content with YouTube vlogs after graduating high school in 2015, attended Central Michigan University, dropped out of college to focus on YouTube and his music career. He signed to Epic Records. He's had a couple of songs, Moonwalking in Calabasas, which was a big hit for him. Debuted in his first boxing match against Nate White in June 2021. And he's been partners with Halle Bailey since 2021. And as far as I know, that's pretty much all I know about him. I don't know too much about this guy as a whole, so don't quote me. So that's all I pretty much know about DDG. So I don't. Let me get back to the story here. As noted by Media Takeout, a screenshot from Disney's website from a few weeks ago showed that they submitted Halle's song for the first time for Best Original Song nomination. However, as of Sunday, October 1st, Disney made a change on their website and removed Halle's song from Oscar consideration. While Halle had a high chance of scoring an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, this could be complicated for the rumored pregnant star. She will be required to perform the song live on stage during the ceremony, as it has been tradition for the Best Original Song nominees for years. It should be noted that Halle is still submitted for Oscar consideration for Best Actress. This category does not require a nominated actress to attend the event, which is scheduled to take place on March 10th, 2024, in person. So basically, what Disney did was, because she's pregnant, the belief is that she can't be there to perform the song, and that's why they're not giving her the nomination. They're not going to put her up there for the nomination, which I think is really stupid. I think it's a really bad idea per se, because we've seen award shows where people have shown up very pregnant and have had no problems whatsoever. So I feel like there's some kind of there's kind of like a second meaning behind this whole thing. I mean, I don't understand why that is, but yeah, the song got removed. It did say that she's still considered for Best Actress, which I don't think she's going to get. She probably deserves to get it because she really was really great in that film. She's really one of the highlights of the film, and that's why that film works as well as it does. But I don't know, the whole idea of this whole thing that she can't perform on an Oscar stage because she's pregnant just seems really. There's something that doesn't feel right about this at all. I feel like something deep is going on here with this, and I don't know what it is, but I don't know. That's something that should definitely be looked into, because there's no reason why somebody should have their name taken off an awards consideration because she's pregnant. Like, she can't be on stage because of this. And okay, so she can't sing. So go get somebody else who can sing those songs and do it. I mean, this is not rocket science, guys. I mean, this is something that the Academy Awards has done in the past. I mean, for God's sakes, Robin Williams sung "Blame Canada" from South Park Bigger Long and uncut at the Oscars. Like, they didn't need Trey Parker and Matt Stone to be up there to do that. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. This just feels so. Something just doesn't seem right in Denmark with this one here. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't. It doesn't feel right at all. Plus, it's not like she can't be at the Oscars anyway, because she's got another film coming out this year, which could possibly lead to that one. I think this one, The Color Purple, which could lead to an Oscar nomination there if she's good enough to be in. Good enough in terms of that, but the film hasn't come out yet. And actually, we're supposed to get a trailer this week for it, so we'll see whether or not this actually has a chance to do that. But I'm actually looking forward to checking that one out, honestly. But yeah, that article seems very, very weird. Like, I don't know why Disney would think that not having somebody up there just because they're pregnant means a whole lot. Like I said, there's been award shows where people have shown up pregnant, and it's never been a big deal. But Halle Bailey does it, and it's just like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that, especially if you're singing. Even though we can just hire somebody to sing for you, like I said, this is something that they've done for so many years. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but we'll see what happens down the road once we actually get to the Oscars. Assuming we'll have an Oscars on time, because the actors are still on strike. But that just seems like a really stupid reason to not have somebody there because they're pregnant. I mean, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but what do I know? I'm just some guy in Western Pennsylvania talking to you right now as I just tilted my camera there, but as I'm talking to you on a camera, talking about the story going on here, but it's very weird. It's very weird that that's actually happening on that front. So let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Why don't we do that? So, of course, with The Exorcist Believer out in theaters this week, there's obviously going to be a plethora of new horror trailers to come out, and we had a couple of them. We had It's a Wonderful Knife with Justin Long and Joel McHale. Then we had Thanksgiving, which does not look like the Grindhouse trailer. I don't know if that's supposed to be what this is based off of, but it looks like a pretty generic horror movie that takes place around Thanksgiving. But The one trailer that really kind of got to me this week and made me want to delve more into it was the newest Blumhouse film, and that is Night Swim. It's a film that comes out on early January, and it's basically, this is based off of a short film done by Rod Blackhurst and Bryce McGuire. McGuire's the director of this. It stars Wyatt Russell as this former Major League Baseball player who's forced into early retirement by a degenerative illness. He moves into a new home with his concerned wife, played by Kerry Condon, his teenage daughter, and his young son, Elliot. Secretly hoping against the odds to return to Pro Bowl, Ray persuades Eve that a new home's shimmering background swimming pool will be fun for the kids and provide physical therapy for him. But a dark secret in the home's past will unleash a malevolent force which will drag the family under into the depths of inescapable terror. And you can pretty much tell what this is basically going to be. You basically have a story about a killer swimming pool with a creature inside of it. You should be able to sell it on that front. I mean, when I saw the trailer for this, I thought, oh, it's another Megan, except this doesn't have anything that makes the Megan trailer memeable or funny whatsoever, even though it's supposed to be taken seriously, because the Megan trailer that came out last year was clearly not meant to be taken seriously by any means. Anytime you have a scene where you have the killer doll dancing the way she does in that trailer, like, they knew it was a joke coming in here, but no, this run is being played straight up for seriousness. So, I can't play the whole trailer in full here, but I want to get to one part in particular that really did kind of irk me. And let me just go ahead and see if I can play this for you. So let's go ahead and play this. At that point now. Okay, so you have a part in the trailer where it's nighttime and you have this teen couple, a guy and a girl. They're playing Marco Polo, and the girl has her eye closed, and the guy just slowly but surely slips away, walks away, and she keeps going, Marco, Marco, Marco. The pool comes up, continue. Used to say there, she keeps going deeper and deeper into the pool. The lights go out, which, this is a scene that goes on way too long. Like, I pinpointed when this started. This is 37 seconds into the trailer. The trailer then it keeps this going for over a minute of nothing but her screaming, Marco, Marco, keeping her eyes closed. After the third time you don't hear a polo, open your damn eyes. Like, I know it's dark outside, but you should still be able to see where the hell you are. Like, or just start making your way towards the pool. Towards the sides of the pool. Like, get out of the water. Like, really, like, this is standard stuff here in horror movies, and this is generic stuff that you're supposed to know in horror movies, but, like I'm playing it right now, it's literally it's literally still going. Like, it's still about halfway through the minute in. She still has her eyes closed. Like, she still has her eyes closed. Like, open your friggin' eyes, lady. I mean, jeez, like, and all of this, and like, the suspense is not there anymore. Like, you're just still going. And she's just like, I can hear you. It's just like, open your eyes. Like, Jesus. Like, I still can't, like, I don't know. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I love how she just eventually decides, screw it, I'm going underneath the water because you're there. It's just like, if you're holding your breath if you think he's still down there after, 30, 45 seconds, he's either dying or is dead at this point. Like, they don't even show where he goes. Like, he doesn't stay in the pool. Like, he's already gone. Like, he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to leave her here. I'm going to go to Taco Bell, because that's what kids in my demographic are supposed to do, because clearly this was not written to be written by people that know how this type of stuff works. Like, it's just, like, it gets ridiculous. It's going to keep going here, and we're going to get to the creature itself. It's a big-ass pool, too, apparently. A big deep end, like... And she still does it again. Oh, and the most generic way the villain can say is the creature can say the word polo, like polo, like it sounds like a voice you would hear if you're getting the Prince Albert joke. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do. If you do, well, for heaven's sake, let the boy out. Like, it just... I don't know. I'm thinking about this too much here, but let's listen to this again. Tell me I'm not thinking. Tell me I'm not thinking the same thing.
Marco.
Like, by the way, she still had her eyes closed at that point. At that point, just get out of the freaking pool, for God's sakes. And, like, the creature's dragging him down. I guess she's dragging him down to this area of the pool. Like, there's a light there. Like, I don't know if that's something from the bottom of the pool or not. I can't tell from this camera angle, but, like, I don't know. That just really irked me. This whole... Let me shut the trailer off there. Kept it going there. But yeah, like I said, like, this looks pretty bad. Like, even for Blumhouse, this looks pretty terrible overall. Like, I don't know. To me, sometimes just going too far over the edge just really... Like, it really hurt. Is like, sometimes going too far like that, really insulting the intelligence of your audience, really pushes it for me. So, for me personally, I'm definitely not looking forward to this. I think this looks pretty bad, honestly. Like, it doesn't even look like it's that fun, so bad it's good kind of bad. It just looks terrible. It just looks pretty generic, honestly. So, not much more to say about that one, honestly. I just really thought that trailer really didn't sell the film overall. Maybe me didn't even want to see the film, honestly, which I'm probably not going to do. So yeah, a little more expansion on that one. That's my expanded trailer reaction to Night Swim. So let's move on from there. You know, it's funny, I was about to get into recommendations, and I had a section on here where I was going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the week that they had, because I've already peeped off New York Jets fans, Chicago Bears fans, the work so far, and I was going to say, you know what, guys, here's the week that you finally get to do it. After the Ravens, we're going to come into Pittsburgh and completely dismantle my Steelers, and not the case. Steelers actually somehow found a way to win, because quite simply, the Ravens pretty much gave them the win. Like, they had every opportunity to win this game. The Steelers were handing the Ravens a win at times, especially at the end. Like, Gunnar Olszewski, like, I don't understand why the Steelers keep taking the Patriots' table scraps. There's a reason why New England gets rid of people. And the Steelers look at them as just like, well, we got to take them because they were on the New England Patriots. So that means they got to be good. They got to be good players. And then you get a performance like that today. There's a reason why Gunnar Olszewski didn't play in the last two games. And it wasn't because of the concussion. It was because of something else. And that something else is that guy can't hold the football to save his life. But yeah, I'm not as angry as I thought it was going to be, because the Steelers not only didn't lose, they actually won. They're entering the bye week at 3-2. They're at the bye week better than the Ravens, because the Ravens had two road wins against divisional rivals, and if they had gotten this, they not only would have had sole possession of first place, they would have been pretty much cemented the AFC North at this point. I mean, it was getting to that level, but not the case. Steelers won today 17-10. You wouldn't have figured that out by the way the score went beforehand, because in the fourth quarter it was 10-3, and the Steelers offense looked very anemic. Like, I'm going to get to Matt Canada in just a little bit, because that guy needs to go, but the fact that the Ravens gave them every opportunity to win this game, and they took full advantage of it. They got a safety on them. They kicked a field goal to go 10-8, and then the Ravens looked like they were going to lose at near around, maybe, what was it, 3-4 minutes into the game, and then Gunnar Olszewski muffs the punt, and the Ravens pick it back up, and they're already well deep into the Steelers' red zone. You thought it was game over at that point. And then Joey Porter Jr. finally gets to play, so hey, maybe you should use him more instead of trotting Patrick Peterson out there all the time. Like, there's a reason why you drafted Joey Porter Jr. number 32 overall, so you might as well use him. Still waiting for you to use Darnell Washington, too, by the way. They hardly used him today, even though Pat Freiermuth wasn't playing today. They spent more time getting it to Connor Hayward more than Darnell Washington, who didn't even have a catch today. They targeted him a couple times, but not that much. But I digress. But the Steelers did eventually win. George Pickens caught a big touchdown bomb to Kenny Pickett, make it 14-10. Then the Ravens had the ball stripped from them, and they were able to add a field goal to that, even though they should have ran the game out at that point, which gave the Ravens a chance to win again. But in the final seconds, T.J. Watt came in, ended the game, and a 17-10 victory for the Steelers. One that, yay, the Steelers won, but boo, the Steelers still have to keep Matt Canada around, which I don't think they should, because Matt Canada was not the reason why the Steelers won this game. Kenny Pickett was the reason why the Steelers won this game. I mean, Kenny Pickett had to have been the guy, had to have looked at Matt Canada's playbook and said, you know what, I'm doing this my own way. And he gets it to George Pickens. That's because if you look on TV, when they threw that touchdown, Matt Canada had this look on his face like, I didn't call that. Like he had that look on his face just like, well, I'm done. It's just like I don't know if they're going to do anything about it because they won. If they had lost badly, this would have been the end of the Matt Canada era. But I don't know. One would think they should do it because now you're in a bye week. Now you have time to think about it before you have to play the Rams in a couple of weeks. A really good Rams team, by the way. But I don't know. Like, I don't think they're going to do it. I think because they got the win, I think that's more than enough to keep Matt Canada there for a little bit more. I think if I was the Steelers, I would get rid of Matt Canada this week. I would do it this week. Find a guy before the bye week is during the bye week to replace him. Do it within house. Do whatever you have to do. Just get Kenny Pickett a real offensive coordinator. That's all we're asking here in Pittsburgh. Fire Matt Canada. And you hear on TV, everyone's screaming, fire Matt Canada in the stadium. It's just like, everyone knows that Matt Canada's not doing his job well. Everyone knows that he's only got a job there because he helped Mike Tomlin's son get a chance to play in college football at Boston College. Was it Boston College or what? I can't remember, but I know he's playing college football somewhere. Dino Tomlin. Now I'm curious though. I got to do the research on this because I should know this by now. I've seen him on TV. I should know where he plays at. Yeah, Boston College. So, yeah, I think everybody knows that Matt Canada's not the answer for this team. I'm hoping they do the right thing and find somebody else during the bye week, but just because they got that win today, I think that's more than enough to keep them sticking around. So, we'll wait to see what happens, but in the meantime, hey, we here in Pittsburgh, we're going to celebrate it. It was an ugly win. Even Kenny Pickett said at the end of the game, it was an ugly win, but we'll take what we can get. A win is a win. Steelers are in the first place in the AFC North for at least the next week until Baltimore plays again. We'll probably take it there, but yeah, Steelers won today, so thankfully, I don't have to go on that big rant I was ready to go on because the week prior to this was not pretty. Like, Mike Tomlin last Sunday literally said after the Texans game, hell yeah, we got to make some changes. And everyone thought, this is it. This is where they're going to fire Canada. And then they're just like, no, we're going to have padded practice because that's what we needed. But needless to say, the padded practice didn't really do a whole lot there. I mean, you got the win, but it wasn't because of a padded practice. Like, I'm hoping somebody there is going to finally get the picture and tell Matt Canada to get the hell out. So, one hopes that will be the case. Probably will not, but we will wait to see what happens there. So with that said, let's get to some recommendations. Let's end the show on a high note. So my recommendation for this week is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first animated feature ever. The Disney Classic is getting a 4K re-release for the first time ever. Best Buy will have an exclusive steelbook of the 4K, but there will also be a regular 4K Blu-ray digital copy of it. Supposedly the 4K version has been out on Disney Plus for a while now. I haven't been able to see it though, so I can't really say for certain how good it is. I've seen little bits and pieces though, and everyone I keep hearing about from the people that actually have seen it said that it's really good stuff. Like, it's actually a really good transfer. So, needless to say, I'm definitely very excited to check this one out. I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. Some other new releases this week of interest: Transformers: Rise of the Beast, probably the best Transformers film since the first one, and just goes to show you that if you take Michael Bay as far away from this series as you can, you actually get a really good Transformers film out of it. And this film, directed by Stephen Caple, starring Anthony Ramos from In the Heights, a really fantastic film. Can't recommend it enough. Definitely check that one out. And in terms of my Halloween recommendation of the week, my recommendation is going to be The Halloween Tree, based off of Ray Bradbury's best-selling story. This is a 1993 animated feature film produced by Hanna-Barbera, based off the book. It tells the story of a group of trick-or-treating children who learn about the origins and influences of Halloween when one of their friends is spirited away by mysterious forces. You have Ray Bradbury himself providing the narration for the story, and you also have Leonard Nimoy as the children's guide, Mr. Mounshroud. Bradbury also wrote the script for the storyline, and this was a movie that was often featured on Cartoon Network during the holiday season. They made this around the time the old Hanna-Barbera Animation Studios were entering kind of the final days before they would eventually be absorbed into Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network. In fact, Bradbury himself originally envisioned Chuck Jones to put this together right around the time the book was written. And the most interesting thing about this movie is some of the animation for this. They were turning out some really good animation at Hanna-Barbera in the 90s. You look at this, you look at the Johnny Quest movies they did, you look at Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, SWAT Cats. But to me, this is probably one of their definitive standout productions they've ever done. And it helps that you have a guy like Bradbury in there putting this together, doing the narration. It's a good interpretation of what he had wanted to bring out into a feature film through the voice of the man who wrote it. And as you already figured out, Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Malmshroud, I had no idea that was a performance of his, and honestly, it's really one of his defining roles for him as an actor. I mean, he's just so great as Malmshroud because it's a side of Nimoy that a lot of people never really saw before. It's a performance that shows that he can expand his range of acting, and it just works to his advantage. And you have a really good voice cast as well that works very well here. Great visuals all around. The animation is fantastic to look at. It's one of the most mesmerizing and most inventive Halloween movies ever made. It's the perfect adaptation to one of the great tales by Ray Bradbury. The animation is just great. The cast is great. The story is great. The visuals is great. It's a great Halloween classic, and it's one you should definitely seek out this Halloween. The Halloween Tree is my Halloween recommendation for the week. Definitely check that one out. So, with that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of the Reviewing Network Live. So thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button and check out some of the other episodes we've done. I'll see you guys next week for another episode. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, we are out.